Now we will be discussing about globalization and the changing roles of the civil society organization with respect to globalization. So, as discussed in the earlier chapters discussions, we understand globalization as a process of deterritorialization. So, when this deterritorialization of business has taken place, what are the changing roles of the CSOs and how it is reshaping the relationship between the CSOs and the business organization will be discussed here. So, when you are talking of the CSOs and business relationship, we understand like in many what happens, the scenario is in many developing countries there are the not such well formed CSOs, and so this can be can have both like positive and there are not so well formed institutionalized CSOs whom the business can start its dialogue with. So, it may be like go if the organization thinks like it could interpret it as a good condition, because in that case maybe because there is no representative body, no CSO who can speak about the expectations of the civil society, then there is nobody to monitor also the organization, what it is doing, whether it is respecting the rights and doing its duties towards the civil society or not. And because there is no monitoring mechanism, organization can feel like it is in a very happy state, because there is no strong representative body who can speak of these interests. Or if it can be in a very discomforting state also, if it really wants to do something, doesn't know whom to speak with, whom to start the dialogue with. So, the presence or absence of the strong institutionalized CSO speaking for the causes of the society, civil society, may be interpreted in two different senses. So, because there is no legitimate representations by the local CSOs, so either the organization may feel happy, I do not have to do anything, or it may feel like even if I want to do anything, I do not know whom to start talking with, who are representing this group, and they may have to get start their relationship, get engaged with some overseas CSOs who may have some local branches in the location in which the organization is functioning. So, one of the major problems of getting engaged with these global CSOs who have some local branches is that they may not be fully aware of the local problems, or they may not have that connectivity with the local problem, or their representations in the legitimate representations of the local communities, and that because they are working with a potentially new set of unfamiliar groups. So, that can be a problem with engaging with the overseas CSO. Sometimes it may so happen we can understand certain problems have local boundaries, it happens within a region, but there are certain problems which are which transcend local boundaries, like climate change, water conservation, then human rights. So, these are issues which are problems which really have no like regional boundariness to it, but everybody should be aware of it and taken proper steps to see like these are taken care of. So, these issues and causes, like in the context of globalization, any CSO formed in any part of the world can take care of these issues which transcend the national boundaries. In fact, the concept of the critics of globalization were started by this civil society organization movements who have tried to protest in terms in maybe in through direct and indirect protests against the ill effects of globalization and how it is going to affect the life of people. And it has been training its employees in cases of how to show a protest, how to make a barricade, maybe how to sit on a tree. So, different and show a placard and all these type of things. So, how to do a protest properly so that it catches the attention of people of whom they are addressed to. So, these type of issues were also taken up by the CSOs who are speaking for causes which do not have national boundaries. When you are talking of things like globalization of CSOs, so here we are like speaking in parallel with the globalization of the organizations. So, CSO itself has its own agenda, itself has its own set of like stakeholders and its like way of running, the techniques that they have taken, either direct or indirect, whether violent way or non-violent way, to represent certain issues which are of interest, to represent the issues which are of based on like which are of interest to represent interest of human beings or non-human entities. So, when we are talking of globalization of CSOs, then all these things needs to be revisited, like what are the issues that the particular CSO will be speaking about. Is it a like issue which does not have a national boundary, or they will be speaking of local issues also. How much familiarity do they have with the local community, local people? What is the degree of effort that they have to take to understand the local problem and the local issues and to represent the needs of that local community or the local situations or the environment. Are they ready to take their effort, or they will be speaking on some global issues only, which doesn't is equally important for all the countries. So what will be their nature of like who will be their donors? So how to like be like targeting the donors who will be interested for these issues. So who will be the employees, what will be the pattern, these type of things will become important when it is thinking of globalization of the CSOs. Also very importantly, like in many cases there are no laws regarding certain social issues happening, and there are no as such like global regulations or laws, and issues are happening. So as we have defined earlier, like where law cannot answer, ethics start from there. So should the CSOs try to focus in those areas where there is maybe where maybe global regulation of business is debated or decided, and or how it is to be implemented, because with issues where no global laws are there. So should the CSOs get involved in those type of issues where the role of business gets debated and how it is implemented needs to be focused on. So these type of things are very important in understanding what will be the role of the CSO. By focusing towards the globalization of the CSOs and maybe speaking for the issues where for global issues which are in general important for all the irrespective of where they are functioning, or like they will be speaking of local issues, get involved in it, try to solve the issues and efforts taken to do it, the relationship with the donors based on what are the interest areas of the donors, how to get funding, or extending to the things like they get involved in areas where the CSO's actions and principles get debated, and how they are implementing things gets questioned, because there are no global laws which defines what the organization should be doing. So should the CSO focus towards that? So when you are talking of these things, like is it a question of like how the actually the what will be the relationship of the organization and the business? Is it like that of taking for charity or collaborating with the organizations, or they can to extend themselves, stretch themselves towards regulatory roles also? These are when we are talking of the citizenship behavior of the CSOs, which we are going to discuss in the next module. Thank you.